Good evening. Welcome to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and you are listening to Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson. I have been a bit under the weather of late. Some of y'all know that I had surgery this week, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to speak. Unfortunately for David, but fortunately for the dogs, my voice seems to be hanging in there quite a bit, and I am so thankful because I have missed being able to speak with all of you and being able to bring you live, new, fantastic guests who have interesting businesses and interests. And tonight is absolutely no exception. I am very pleased to be able to bring to you just somebody who is all about dream incubation. And until I got his book and became a little bit versed in this, I've had some time to read. I wasn't sure exactly what we were going to be discussing. I know that dreams are imperative to keep one moving and to keep one functioning. And for a long time, I had not been recalling mine or really even fully experiencing them. So I am going to not get your name right because I should have said it again right before we went on the air, but you're so gracious and I appreciate you so much. And this is Machiel Klerk, who is the author of Dream Guidance, and it is connecting to the soul through dream incubation. And he is also the founder of the Jung Platform. So we're going to be learning about that too. Thank you so much for being here and for the patience.
It's such a pleasure to be with you, Kat. I've been looking forward to this, and thank you for hosting me.
Well, how could I not, right? You know, I was just really impressed when I was speaking with your publicist, who is a friend of mine, and I saw the title of your book, and as I said, I have been having some difficulty with dream recall and fully experiencing them, and I have a problem with that because I think that's where a lot of our natural guidance comes from. And you know, one of the blurbs about your book is that it harnesses the wisdom hidden in our dreams through the ancient method of dream incubation. So, can you educate us a little bit about the incubation? I know that you have 5 steps to help people with that, but where did this come from? How did you develop this?
Yes, well, dream incubation is a very old technique in which people ask their dream a question just before they go to sleep in order for them to have a helpful response to whatever is on their mind or in their heart. And it comes back in almost any spiritual tradition, whether it is in the shamanic tradition or Buddhism, Hinduism, our Western psychology, the old Greek traditions. People have noticed that we're connected to some larger awareness, a deeper intelligence that is always around, yet speaks especially during the night through dreams, because somehow we're closer and more connected to that source. And we don't need to wait for the dream to come to us in order to bring its blessings, yet we can reach out to the dream for support. So that is really the notion of dream incubation. Ask a question to your dream for whatever is in your mind or on your heart that you want to have an answer for.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, I would not have considered my dreams at night. I consider that just focusing on whatever happened in the day. They tend to be, when I can recall them, they're brilliant. I dream in color and I dream weird stuff and I fly and I go to places. But it says that most people really don't know that your nighttime dreaming can be used for personal development. I just think it's so brilliant and it's really so simple when you stop and look at it.
Yes, and the interesting thing is we all carry these dreams with us every night. So there's a wise inner counselor that is on standby and actually already sending us intelligent instructions, messages, gifts at night. And I think a lot of people have noticed here and there in their life that the dream would portray a situation accurately or would give them the heads up of something that would come in the future, or maybe they connected to a deceased ancestor. There's a lot of wisdom that we once in a while that we're aware of. And it is just in our Western culture not a well practiced activity to really be in touch with our dreams. Some people do, but in general, people aren't. And despite that, it's one of the greatest resources to live a life a little bit more with ease and more purpose, more meaning. And it is there every night for to engage with.
Well, when you decided that this was going to be something that you wanted to bring out to the world to kind of guide people through the methodology, why did this speak to you so personally? What was it that drew you to this particular topic? Because it's really a very special thing.
Yeah. Well, I was in my early 20s. I was in the pit. I hadn't dealt well with the huge heartbreak of losing my dad at the age when I was 10 years old, and hadn't properly grieved that loss. And then I was in my early 20s and didn't know what to do, was somewhat depressed, no sense of purpose, no meaning. And by some fortunate circumstances, I stumbled upon the works of Carl Jung, who provided me with some insight on how to listen to dreams. So when I started listening to dreams at that moment, I started to get flooded by really helpful dreams that gave me an overview of where I was in life, where I could move towards, suggestions for the future. I reconnected with my father in dreams, which was very healing. And then I had a lifeline, a thread, a dream thread out of the dark pit. And my life became so much more colorful. And I've just never let go of that dream thread ever since. And I've studied it, and on a certain moment I figured out that you could ask your dream a question, and I played with it, and then I noticed so many other cultures already noticed this as well. There's some wisdom there that you can proactively engage with, and that will actually loves to support and help us.
Isn't that amazing that that help is just right there? And so many people aren't aware of that. And I mean, and
Yeah.
it's seriously intense and very good help.
It's marvelous help. There's been dreams that have created scientific breakthroughs, um, musical songs have been revealed to artists in their dreams. The very famous song "Yesterday" from the Beatles was came to Paul McCartney in a dream. He didn't really create that. He just heard the tune in his dream and then just wrote it down. And still, many creative people have dreams that help them with their painting or their book, and there's a lot of wisdom there. And what you also see is the more we listen to it, the more it speaks or the more it helps. So it's very relational. It's as if it just functions better if we pay attention to it. And there are some steps, Kat. When you said in the beginning you don't remember your dreams well, there are some steps that you can do to re-engage with the world of dream and rekindle that connection, so that also the nighttime dreams will stream again back into you, and you can benefit from what is being revealed there.
You know, I'm very interested in that aspect. In fact, in chat, Lori says that she doesn't remember any of her dreams. And, I have always had dreams and always been able to recall them until fairly recently. I have strong, I used to think that it was just deja vu, but apparently when I was involved in a study on that kind of thing, I thought that I was doing it like normal people. And they said, well, do you have it once a day? Do you have it once a month, a couple of times a year? Yeah. And I was like, well, a few times a day. And they were just kind of like, what? I said, well, yeah, I mean, I recognize the situation. I know what happened if I did one thing. If I liked it, I do that. If I didn't like that, then I do the other. And it actually saved my life several times. So I did have experience with people wanting to know about that. And that's why I find it so interesting that through whatever process, it may have been the health issue that I was having that I was not recalling. I had a lot of brain fog with that. That, perhaps that was creating the problem. The lack of communication between my psyche and myself. So, which sounds crazy, but it's true.
Yeah, we all go often through phases where it is less intense, and maybe there's something going on that you need to focus a little bit more on other aspects. But probably what usually works for almost anyone to rekindle or reestablish it is having a paper and pen or a notebook next to your bed, and making sure you write down a feeling, an image, anything that comes to you in the morning. And then also before you go to bed, just to say, hey, dream, I'm so puzzled. You've been away for a while. We were so nicely connected. I hope you come back. And if you come back, I will write you down tomorrow. And really talk to it and engage with it and think about it throughout the day, and maybe write to it. And also just for sure in the morning, write down whatever it is. Maybe you have no image, but you notice, gosh, I woke up and I had this pit on my stomach, or I felt elated and I felt it in my chest. Then you just write that down. And then usually within days, people start having dreams again. And most people, they remember maybe 2 or 3, 4 dreams a week.
Well, I would greatly enjoy that. I miss them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and especially because you were so well connected in the past, it's very likely to get back again.
I had read when I first started doing my shows. I'm in my 8th year, and when I started, I was always amazed by people who would communicate with various entities that they believed in their dreams. And I was always upset because everybody had a spirit guide, and everybody does have spirit guides, but by different names if you don't call them that.
Yeah.
But everybody seemed to know theirs, like know their name or be able to recognize them and things of that nature. And I decided that I wanted to know the name of my spirit guide, my primary spirit guide.
Yeah.
And so I found a book on that topic. It's not as detailed or as, quite as helpful as yours, but it just said, as you go to sleep, ask for it to come to you as you are waking, because you'll retain that, as you're coming out of a dream state and awakening. And it worked, but it was such an odd name. I asked 3 different times and I got the same thing. So I was like, I'm sorry, I just didn't realize, wasn't trying to be rude. So, but it was, and someone actually told me that the name that I was getting was the name of a park in Belgium, because I was thinking it was Native American because I have a Native American heritage, but I also have German heritage. So perhaps that was from that region. Not obviously not the same country, but the same region. And so perhaps that was the connection. So it was just interesting to me because it was definitely answered.
It's also interesting that you had the same response 3 times. Isn't that interesting that you ask it and then ask again and it's the same thing?
Yes, and it wasn't necessarily that I was seeking validation or doubted it. It was that I thought I was misunderstanding it.
Oh.
And I did say that, the second and third time I asked, I was like, I'm sorry, and I'm not doubting you, but I think perhaps I misunderstood. Can you please give it to me again? Just to make sure. And, and it was the same. Because
and how great that they were willing to repeat it.
I was really surprised by that, but they'd been my spirit guide my whole life. I guess they didn't mind, or she didn't mind.
Yeah,
and I'm not even. It didn't really have a gender, but I feel rude just saying they because it was a person or entity. But do people always get answers when they ask like that? I mean, do people generally tend to get an immediate response of that nature?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Kat. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and exploring that. And what I noticed is that people do get answers, but we get answers when we ask the right question. So it really hinges on asking the right question. So maybe it's easier to say not right. The right question has to do with things that have to do with our life path, our health, our emotional life. Mm-hmm. So if we ask questions around that and in a generous way and in a way that shows real desire that we want to learn and grow, the larger awareness or the inner wisdom wants to help. And if we ask questions that are too abstract or have nothing to do with us, or something like, what did my neighbor have for dinner last night?
Definitely not your business. Yeah,
it's not your business, and then you don't get good answers. So it hinges for a big part on really figuring out what do I really want to know? What do I really want to ask? What are questions that are alive in me? And then phrase them in a way that allows the dream to respond to you.
That's interesting. Well, I want to come back to that dream respond to you, but we have to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. I hope that y'all all come back with us because this is really fun and interesting, and we'll see you on the other side.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Kat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watch a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of, a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.
Welcome back to Paranormal Experienced. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I've got to tell you, I am so glad to be back. I have missed all of y'all. I've missed being live. And if my voice gets a little weak, we've already discussed it, and Machiel is going to take it, and he is going to run with it while I can kind of rest mine for a minute. But y'all know me. I can talk for days. I bet you could too about this topic that you love.
Yes, and I will run with it, Kat, if your voice goes.
Well, I am totally down with that. I think it would be very fun. You know, when we were having, and I always tell people that someday somebody is going to record breaks on these things and have completely different shows, but it's not going to be me. Because I like having the chance to have my conversations with my guests on our breaks, and I don't want people to be reticent. But, yeah, I had shared with you a lot of different things, like, you know, the name of my spirit guide, which I thought originally was a Native American tribe name from northern United States, turned out to be the name of a park in Belgium. So that was very random to me, and the fact that someone listening to my show knew that, had been to that park, just showed that there was so much connectivity happening. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were talking about being able to ask your questions as you lay down to go to sleep. I do keep a journal beside my bed because I know that my dreams are going to be coming back. I'm going to be retaining them again. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I'm going to do just a really quick little public service kind of a thing right here. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, sometimes your body will do things, you know, the physical nature of the body affects the spiritual nature of the body, and vice versa. And I had had so much brain fog because I had a condition called Graves' disease that was treated in my youth when I was in my 20s. And it was an ongoing process. It's a terrible, terrible thing because people didn't really understand it then. And so recently, this week, I had surgery to remove something that was just pumping so much calcium into my body. It's called a parathyroid. It's part of your thyroid endocrine system. And that sucker was huge. My doctor called me to tell me it was the biggest one he'd ever seen in, you know, thousands of operations. I asked if there was a cash prize. He He just laughed. But anyway, so now my body is adjusting, and I am able to think clearly. Can't really talk all that long, but you know what? I've got guests to do that. But I'm so glad to be back with you. And so now I think that my body is going to start allowing my psychic, my spiritual, all of my gifts that I have to be coming back to the fore, because it's not having to fight for survival so much. And I feel so much more clear that I'm certain my dreams are going to be starting back to the point that I recall them, which is why there's a dream journal again by my bed. And, you know, we had talked when we were at the break about a question or a comment that we have in chat we're going to address. And I think that's a little bit of that, because this is my very dear friend who does not remember any of her dreams. So she's going to be, I told you she had said that she thought she would ask about her life path before she went to sleep to see if she remembers anything. And it doesn't have to be past lives. You know, it can be the current incarnation as you're going forward. You know, are you on the right path? Are you nurturing the part of you that needs that? What can you do to make that better? There's so many things that you address that we can, you know, record the dream, analyze it, working with it. How does one actually go about that?
Which part are you referring to?
Well, you need, like, she wants to ask about life path, and you have, you know, you formulate your question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really great question, the life path. It's so vital and so important to our journey here on Earth. Am I on the right track? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I think it's very broad. So the listener probably wants to ponder and take some time to think about, what does she really want to know about this life path? And then she can zoom into a little bit, like, am I on the right path? Or what is the next step? Or what does it look like if I continue to move through life this way? Or what am I not seeing about my life path? Those are all different questions that make it a little bit more specific. And part of this technique lies in asking the right question, and that means we just need to spend a little bit of time of thinking, what do I really want to know? And then you get to a little sharper question. And after that, once you know, let's say she feels she's somewhat on the right path, but she wants to know, what is the next step that I should take? And then to be on my life path. And then you wanna ask it in a way that you ask only one question at a time, because then you can read the whole dream against that one question, and you make sure that it's an open-ended question, and then write down the question. It one communicates to the dream that you really want to know this. But the strange thing is that very often the next day we forget what we exactly asked, like what is the next step of or how can I do it, and those are different questions and will trigger slightly different answers. So write down the question before you go to bed, and then you can do all kinds of rituals. We can talk about that as well. But the first step is really zooming in, what's alive in you, and make it really specific. Think about, what do I really want to know? Does that make sense?
It does to me. And, you know, this individual has actually actively gone out and sought past life readings.
Oh, yeah.
And such as that. She's very in tune with wanting to understand and learn from her past and understand what she's brought forward, you know, with her to this point, which I find fascinating. I also find it fascinating that we have been together through all 3 of her past lives that she has had done. So I guess there truly are soul tribes.
That, that is fun that you have a soul tribe. And if she wants to know, but probably she would want to know a question such as, what do I need to know about a past life that is relevant for my life right here and now?
Mm-hmm.
And because that is what the dream seems to be interested in answering. Too vague about tell me something about a past life. It needs to have a reason why you want to know this.
And, just kind of like why it's pertinent to this current life.
Yeah, that's a great question. Or what from a past life remains unresolved, and should I engage with, so that this life I can work through a certain life theme.
Those are great questions. And something. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say yes. The questions are so vital to this technique working, and what it also maybe what you heard in it is that you make it relevant to your current life and relevant to your current path, because that is what the dream will answer. It needs to be relevant to your life.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I like when I was reading all the work about you. The different reviews that you shared and things of that nature. One of them actually addresses that dreams respond as oracles, offering guidance to the soul. And I like that and this is a very learned person who was providing this information. It's the founder of the Pacifica Graduate Institute in Dream Tending. Dream Tending, I love that title. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. But, it's talking about how you do offer fabulous step-by-step processes of asking focused questions that unleash the guiding wisdom. And I think that's a great compliment to you.
Thank you.
That this is recognized as being a step-by-step path, and that your dreams actually want to connect with you.
Yes, and that is the interesting thing. And almost any spiritual tradition mentions something like that. Like in the Bible, we have "Ask and you shall be given," and that comes back in the Islamic tradition and in Hinduism and in the African tradition. It is understood by all these traditions that there is something in the depths of our soul that is willing to help us, that's willing to help us become us, live our own life, bring our gifts into the world, become more conscious, be more loving. And when we approach that mystery from that perspective, it seems to bestow its help and guidance upon us. And what for me was so important was indeed to make that really practical, so that I wrote that book, and here are steps you can do this, here's how you can get to a great question, here's how you can do a great ritual, so that you have all these ingredients, that anyone has themselves this tool that they can ask their inner wisdom a question for their own life, and that they can be dependent upon their own way of engaging with this mystery. So you don't need someone else to tell you how to live life. You have your own wise, compassionate counselor living inside of you that you can connect with. And I know you can connect with that counselor in many ways, but dreams is just such a helpful way, and you get such great messages in dreams.
Well, I know that I experienced that, and it was so special to me that I was actually blown away, to be honest. Because I truly didn't anticipate having something so direct. And it was right in my ear, right as I woke up, all 3 times. Right in my ear.
Yeah.
So
You really heard the words, huh?
I literally heard the word. And that's why I was so confused, because it didn't sound like what I anticipated. It was so different than what I anticipated. I'm thinking George, Maud. But
yeah. And I think one of the key features of knowing that it is accurate is if it doesn't match our expectation, then we know, oh, I'm not just making this up. I wouldn't
Right.
make this name up. I wouldn't make this. This must be a real message.
And it completely convinced me of that, to the point that I thought I was misunderstanding it.
Yeah, yeah.
I literally thought that I had just misunderstood, that that couldn't possibly be the correct answer.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
And the gentle spirit kept repeating its name and wanted to have a relationship with you, and loved for you to know its name, so it could be you could have this connection and relationship. So that's really beautiful.
It is. And, and it's really interesting, because I was on a trip. I was abroad, and a psychic was doing a group reading, and my dad came through. So that was interesting. That was really interesting. But another woman who said that she was a psychic approached me immediately after and said, there's more information from your dad. He wants you, he wants you to ask him for help. He wants you to ask him to help you more. And I'm like, he does help me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do, because how do you ask a spirit to help you? My dad helped me a great deal over time. And
From the other side.
well, from this side. And so
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I talked to him. I know he's in my home sometimes, but I just didn't understand how he would want me to ask him to help. I still don't. So that's something I'm going to be asking now that I've read this and I'm aware of how I can communicate better. But, you open so many different paths with your methods, and it's really not, it's not hoodoo, voodoo, woodoo, woo-woo. It's all just, these are the questions, line it up, get it going, here you go. And it's beautiful.
Well, and the nice thing is, I encourage everyone also, just try it for yourself. Don't believe me because or anyone because they say so.
Or me. Do it yourself.
Yeah. Try it for yourself. Tonight, if you're listening to this, formulate a question, either something that's important to you, or take a question that I've seen that works very often for a lot of people, such as, how can I love myself more deeply? It's a great question. Most of us can improve on loving ourselves more deeply. Or
and that's imperative.
What do you mean?
That question, that's imperative. It is because you have to have self-love and self-care to be able to love and care for others. And
exactly, yes, I agree. It's you cannot give what you don't have. It's hard to give love if you don't love yourself.
And people know that. People recognize that emptiness, don't they?
They do. And so I want to encourage people tonight, if you don't know a question, write down a question, how can I love myself more deeply? And then you will get a dream that probably suggests something, that someone in the dream is doing something, or you see something happening, and you can just do the same thing, and see how that will create a more loving presence in your life.
Do you know that is just a wonderful thing?
Yes, and in our day and age, it is necessary. But I think we all, in whatever day and age being loving is a great thing.
Absolutely. Highly underrated.
Yes. Yes.
Well, because, in today's society, we're independent. We don't need each other. We don't need to be able to do this. And that is so not true. We are an integrated species. We need each other. And we don't need the people that are showing us the differences between each other. We need the people that are showing us the continuity of the relationships of the communities. That's so important. Don't listen to the ones that try to tell you how different you are. Listen to the ones that show you how to love each other.
Beautiful, and life becomes much more an enjoyable journey if there's love for self, love for others, love for the world, love for your work, love for your hobbies. If you can bring love into your life, you'll live much more enjoyable. And a lot of people would love to purchase and buy love. It's just not able. You cannot buy it. You have to develop it yourself by becoming more loving, and deal better with your own dark side or critical thoughts or feelings of not being worthy. And how can you bring love to all those parts?
Yes. I just love that. And, oh my gosh, we have to take a break. Where is this time going? But
where is it going?
I know. But we will be right back. Y'all come back too, because this is such great stuff. We'll see you on the...
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson, and I'm so pleased that y'all are here. Whether you're listening to us live or in podcast format, you know what? You are just absolutely loving this information. I know you are. And if you missed the first part of the show, no worries, because you know we're available on iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're available in India on JioSaavn. We're a big deal there, so I think they're kind of a big deal too. But you can find us. This information is going to be out there for you to reference anytime you want to. So I am so pleased that you are here. And Machiel, I just am fortunate to have been introduced to your work. I'm so thankful for that. When you were talking about getting all the questions, okay, and getting the information that you seek gathered, and you formulate your questions, and then, you actually say preparing for the dream night. How does one do that in your world? What is preparing for your dream night?
It is this notion that you're going to ask your dream a question that night or a night. And in the old days, like in the Greek times, people would walk for days to a temple where they would dream and ask the gods for support. And that pilgrimage towards the temple is in a way a certain form of preparation. It's already indicating to the larger awareness, to the gods or to the spirit guides, I'm coming to you with the humble request for support, because I recognize I cannot oversee my own life, but I need a little bit of help because life is difficult and complex. And that preparation, that journey towards the dream night, that is what I call preparing for the dream night. And people would arrive at the temple and then would go through a series of rituals, specific cleansing, dancing, eating, or fasting, and we can mimic somewhat of that proven recipe of success by saying, maybe tonight I'm going to ask a question, or I know I need to get up tomorrow early and I don't have time, but this Saturday I want to ask a big question, such as how can I? What is the next step on my life path? That is a really important question, and maybe the person wants to really prepare for it, and just in the days coming up, do little rituals, light a candle, talk to the dream, go for a walk, find a little object that represents the nature of the question, and with that you're preparing for the dream night. And that is, besides asking the right question, is that preparation for the night, creating rituals, expressing your intent, your gratitude for the answer that is coming, nurturing the relationship with this larger awareness. That is the other big thing that helps to create getting a positive or a helpful dream at the dream night.
Well, that is only logical. If you don't set forth your intentions, then it's very difficult to achieve them. So that's just that's the way to handle just about any quest, right? It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's right.
And I really do love another quote that somebody made about you, Mr. Andrew Harvey. I love these, by the way. That's why I'm sharing them. You're so well respected and so appreciated. But he's talking about learning the language of dreams and their wise and holy power to guide us. This is biblical. It's not just random New Age, let's do this stuff. Like you said, it's been through Buddhism, it's been through Islam, it's been through Christianity, it's been through Hinduism. It's everywhere for generation upon generation, basically since the beginning of time recorded, that people do go and seek the wisdom of their dreams through just preparing themselves and being willing to accept that source. I just think but there is a language to the dreams. That's why there's so many dream interpretation books. There's so many, but as far as teaching you how to dream, your book stands on its own. I'm not
Well,
familiar
thank
with
you.
other people doing this work.
No, thank you. Uh, I've read, of course, a lot of dream books on dreams, and I wanted to make something that's really practical that could help people that have no experience with dreaming or have a lot of experience, but that wasn't a prerequisite, and that everyone can start nurturing this relationship that we all have, and some connect to it in other ways already. And one of the things I also put in the book, but would love to share with people, is if you have a dream, as you mentioned, there's so many dream books and ways of interpreting dreams, and you don't have to be an expert on learning dream symbols. So instead of asking the question, what does this mean, in which you then start thinking about, oh, what does the tiger mean, and the car and the tunnel, you could also ask the question, what is happening? And when you say that, when you ask that, you start describing the storyline of the dream. And when you do that, you very often get a pattern, and then you can ask the question, where in my life do I recognize this pattern? Or if you would ask the question, what is one thing I can do to love myself more deeply? And you see someone spending money in a restaurant, you could say, what is happening? Oh, someone is generous, is getting himself some food and buying it or treating themselves. And then you know, oh, okay, this is a suggestion from myself, my soul to me, that I can do the same thing. So for people, don't worry if you're not an expert on dreams. Ask yourself the question, what is happening? And that will get you very, very far with working with dreams.
Well, you know, I have an aversion to snakes, per se. Well, no per se. I absolutely have an aversion to snakes. But, you know, one of my friends was telling me, you know, she was at that time all big up into all the, you know, New Age spiritualism, dream interpretation, the whole bit. And she was like, well, snakes are wise. And I was like, nope, snakes are not my friends. Not interested. And
well, yeah,
it was, but I mean, it was something that I felt so deeply integrated into my psyche and myself that it's weird. You can't completely shut out all possibilities of anything, except that any snake in my backyard will no longer be there if I know about it. But other than that, everything has positive sides. I'm sure somewhere there's a positive side to slithery things. But, you know, you cannot be locked out of understanding. If something comes to you that's uncomfortable for you, you still have to be open to that and try to understand, because maybe that is a guide telling you, maybe we're going to turn this way instead of going down that path. Because I've had that happen. That does, right? That's part of the guidance profile, is averting something that could be disastrous by following the other side, right?
Yeah. And I think what you also point out is we all have a different relationship or emotions with life. So for you, a snake might very well mean something different than for someone else who
Absolutely,
loves
it does.
snakes and pets. And therefore also these dream books have their limitations, because in some traditions it would be, oh, snake is wisdom, the other is it's a devil, and so already on that element there is some question. But then the individual response to the dream figure is very important, and dream books don't really tease that out well.
Well, it was really humorous, because I had a guest at one time who was like, you know, you were talking about past histories, past lives and stuff. and different alien species and that. And she was like, well, yeah, you're a reptilian. I was like, doubtful. Unless that just completely blew my mind when I was younger and, in another life, and it flipped me out. But don't see it. But, there's all kinds of things that there are some very good things. There's wisdom, there's patience, they're excellent predators. There's, all kinds of good things about them too, but those are still the things that freak me out. So when I dream about snakes, they're usually nightmares because I can't control my psyche, even in my sleep, to be open to that. Isn't that crazy?
Well, no.
No? You don't think it's odd that our prejudices can still come through in our dreams?
And no, I think that actually part of your, and not your, but our way the dream is constructed is partly out of our own emotions and beliefs. And so, therefore, the dream really represents our biases, our emotions. So if you're afraid for snakes, your dreams will show that. And if another person is afraid for horses, their dream will show that.
I have a friend who is, and they do. They did.
Yeah.
Especially when she was younger, because they were so large.
Yeah.
Her worst nightmares were about running horses. So I thought that was interesting too. Like trampling horses.
Well, that is because the dream is a combination between one's own personal experiences and feelings and emotions and something larger than ourselves, and that's how this dream comes into being.
And it's such a beautiful thing when there's a message out there that I have had other people, not my dad, who I felt like were trying to reach out to me, who have passed. And until this psychic that was reading all of my mail when we were in Scotland, he was getting all kinds of things because there were 2 different family members that came through that reading. And, it was stuff that if I had been getting that, like in a dream, I might not have recognized that. So it's important. When we come back after our news break, I know it's just crazy, but it's really, there's so much more. Recording the dream, analyzing and working with them. We've got so much more to talk about. So we're going to take a break for our top of the hour break. We will be back. And you know what I say? I know it's news, but I always look for something good, right? There's always something. So let's see if we can't find it here, right? We'll be back right after this. Y'all come back too, and we will discuss this more, even more depth.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. The House has passed legislation that could make it more difficult to overturn a certified presidential election in the future. NPR's Windsor Johnston reports Democrats are proposing amendments to the Electoral Count Act in the aftermath of the January 6 insurrection.
Democrats say the bill aims to prevent unlawful efforts to overturn presidential elections and to ensure future peaceful transfers of power. Speaking ahead of the vote, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren said the legislation includes provisions that would significantly raise the threshold needed for lawmakers to object to state electors.
Under this bill, no objection will be heard unless 1/3 of each House supports it. And the only objections that will be permitted are those that are rooted in the Constitution itself, a narrow set of issues.
Currently, only one member from the House or Senate is required to object, and there are no restrictions on the types of objections that can be raised. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington. Washington.
European leaders are slamming Russian President Vladimir Putin's announcement of a mass troop mobilization in Russia's war on Ukraine. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports from Athens. The UK, Germany, and France say the West should keep supporting Ukraine despite Russia's threats of escalation.
Putin expressed support for referendums in Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine that will help them join Russia. He also threatened to use all means necessary, including nuclear weapons, should Ukraine, backed by the West, attack that land. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte called the threat, quote, a sign of panic. The leaders of countries bordering Russia, including Poland, said the West cannot allow the Kremlin's latest attempt to grab Ukrainian territory. Lithuania, meanwhile, is mobilizing its rapid response forces on the border. And Latvia says it will refuse to grant humanitarian visas to Russians fleeing conscription. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Athens.
The Federal Reserve is projecting slower economic growth and slightly higher employment as it continues to crack down on inflation with higher interest rates. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Fed raised rates another 0.75 of a percentage point.
The Fed has now raised interest rates 5 times in the last 6 months, and policymakers expect to boost rates by another 1 or 1.25 percentage points before the year is done. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says while the aggressive rate hikes could trigger a recession and somewhat higher unemployment, allowing prices to keep climbing unchecked would be worse.
We are focused on getting inflation back down to 2%. We can't fail to do that. If we were to fail to do that, that would be the thing that would be most painful for the people that we serve.
Higher borrowing costs are already weighing on the housing market. The National Association of Realtors says that sales of existing homes have fallen for 7 consecutive months. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow, in response to the Fed actions, fell 522 points. This is NPR. Engineers at NASA's Kennedy Space Center are pushing toward another launch attempt of the agency's next moon rocket, SLS, after wrapping up a critical test today. From your station WMFE in Orlando, Brendan Byrne reports the maiden flight of the rocket has been scrubbed twice.
Engine troubles delayed the first launch attempt of NASA's Artemis 1 mission. A leak of hydrogen forced the scrub of the latest launch attempt earlier this month. Teams at Kennedy Space Center replaced the seals on hardware. To test the fix, engineers pumped the rocket with more than 700,000 gallons of the supercooled liquid hydrogen and oxygen. The agency says the test was a success despite detecting some hydrogen leaking. NASA wants to launch the rocket and Orion space capsule on an uncrewed mission to lunar orbit Tuesday. Along with fixing the leak, the agency will also need an extension from the Space Force for critical safety hardware on the rocket before another launch attempt, and a developing tropical system could further add to delays. For NPR News, I'm Brendan Byrne in Orlando.
A more cautious approach to hiring over the holidays this year by retail giant Walmart. The big box retailer announced today it will hire 40,000 workers, most of them seasonal this year. And while that may sound like a lot compared with past years, it represents a major shift. Last year, Walmart said it was looking to hire about 150,000 permanent employees to work over the holidays and beyond. The change shows there is falling demand for some products. With household budgets being crimped, employers are also continuing to contend with a tight job market. Crude oil futures prices followed stocks lower today. Oil down $1 a barrel to settle at $82.94 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Appian. Appian helps businesses manage change with a unified, low-code platform. Industry leaders trust Appian to accelerate business workflows with its open, enterprise-grade technology. More information is available at appian.com.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back for the second hour of Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson. I am so pleased that y'all are here. You know, we've had a big couple of weeks going here as the world, and it just seems to be getting more and more interesting and sometimes a little scary. But you know, it's life. It really is. This is everything that you didn't know could happen in a 2-week period of time, right? So it's just like, hang on, it's getting closer and more exciting and more dramatic. But you don't have to be anxious because, you know, you have got people like Machiel Klerk who will bring you answers and help you to interpret your dreams, and you can find ways to to take care of yourself, to love and care for yourself, and be better able to love and care for others as you do that. So, but do it with the purpose of loving and caring for yourself first, so that you can be able to be a comfort to other people. And Machiel, I am so pleased that we are back and that we have another hour to be able to discuss this information that you have brought forth. Thank you again for being here.
It's such a pleasure to be with you, Kat, and I love your energy and the way that you ask these questions and your connection to the world of dream and the other world, and that makes it really enjoyable to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Well, you know, I told you that it had been so important to me, and then, you know, as I had health issues and I found myself not being able to recall my dreams, which had always been such a comfort to me. And I felt lost because I didn't have my, what I felt like my protection from my connection to them. It seemed to have been severed. And that was very freaky. We all need our protection, but it wasn't that they had left me. It was that I was not able, physically, I think, to be able to focus well enough, because I thought it was just ADHD, and then I started thinking, well, oh my goodness, all of my family has Alzheimer's. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. And it wasn't. It was just a physical thing. So people need to realize that if you're not able to connect to your source, you're going to be floating untethered. You feel untethered. And being able to connect with our soul source, with our dreams, with our spirit guides, is what grounds us and helps us to be able to help others, I think.
I love how you say that actually connecting to what seems so out there, so spiritual, so ethereal, is actually the most practical thing we can do for our life. The spirit guide can help us in the most practical ways, with love, with health, with life path, with just warning us. So, yeah, I love how you say that, Kat.
Well, a lot of it is just recognizing that connection needs to be there. You know, as someone who had lost it, or felt that I had lost it, obviously not, because you're never just floundering alone, even if you feel like you are. You know, your book has just been imperative to be able to realize that you can connect. You just need to be able to follow these steps, and it helps so much to have a guide. And you provided that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and also what you learn is that this guide knows about your life a lot, but also is an embodiment of your talents. So your guide is also has also to do with your gift that you're about to bring into the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, it helps you to recognize that.
Yeah.
Because I was 50 years old almost when I started doing this. Yeah. And it turns out that this is what I feel like I was supposed to be doing. And everything else was just preparing me to be here. And to be able to find people like you to share wisdom and knowledge with people that are seeking it.
I love that, and also this that you've been preparing so long, and that it culminated in this beautiful work you do.
Yep. Well, I wasn't preparing, but I was being prepared. So I had no idea where that was going. I've had some interesting time periods in my history, but they all culminated in being here talking with you tonight. So I'm very fortunate that I get to do this.
Yeah, and then I think it's a nice, another nice example how it is when people follow their life path, that they start enjoying their life. Of course, it has ups and downs, and we still have trouble, but there's a sense of enjoying life, and you represent that by doing the thing you love to do, and giving your gift to the world, and how that walks hand in hand, joy and delivering one's gift to the community.
Oh, that's really nicely put. Thank you.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a great turn of phrase. But,
thank you.
Well, I think we're developing into a mutual admiration society here. I'm good with that. But but I do want to go, because we've set our dream night. We've set the situation, the scenario, as it were. We've gotten ourselves comfortable and in a position to do it. We've thought about what we want to address. We've formulated direct questions that are easily answered instead of just being ambiguous. And so we've opened ourselves and invited our guides, and so now we've recorded our dream in our journal, and now we've got to analyze and work with it to build and nurture the relationship with our dreams. And then, as you put it, you can turn your waking life into a dream life by doing these things. But you have to understand the analyzing and working with them, don't you, to be able to achieve that fully?
Yes, in a certain way, it is also opening up. Just by engaging with the dreams, we also develop our intuition in a better way. We become more embodied, and we also open up to the dreaming consciousness. And the dreaming consciousness is that what we enter into at night. Mm-hmm. But when we open our eyes, the dreaming consciousness is still there. It's just not as visible, but it doesn't go away. And the more we merge with this dreaming consciousness, the more we feel that we're in the flow of life, and actually, in a literal sense, start living a dream life. Because this dream consciousness, with its wisdom, intelligence, and gifts, is entering our regular habitual life, and by that opening our life up, and in a way that is can be marvelous.
Absolutely. That's brilliantly stated. When you started to develop this system, because it is a system, basically, you have steps that you take in order to achieve your goal, and yes. Which is a very cold way of saying that you're developing your dream life so that you can be the best human you can be and help to nurture and care for yourself and others. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. Mm-hmm. And, so now that you're analyzing and working with the information that you glean through your dream life, is there ever an instance, really, where it will be too ambiguous for you, or do you get what you are prepared to receive in these situations? Is it... Go ahead.
Well, I think that not infrequently we ask a good question, and very often we get a clear answer. It makes sense. Other times, almost as often, we get a more ambiguous, difficult dream. And I want to also encourage people, don't think, oh, this technique doesn't work for me. No, very often that dream comes with some form of a message that we didn't expect. So it is puzzling to us.
Mm-hmm.
And probably we've already tried to solve the issue in our day-to-day life, and we couldn't figure it out. That is why we turn to the dream. And so the dream is always answering us when we ask a genuine, heartfelt question. And sometimes we have to puzzle a little bit on it. So when you don't get your dream, make at least sure that you write it down, because otherwise it disappears.
Yes.
And sometimes you read it later in the day, and then at once it's like, oh, this makes sense. Or you tell your dream to a friend, and then your friend will say, oh, have you thought about this and this? And then it comes to you. So dreams can be a bit complex to understand sometimes, but always treat it as a response from the dreaming, and work it, because the dream will not only answer you in your dream, but if it sees that you're trying to solve the issue, you might just have a chance encounter, a synchronistic event. So you open a book on just the right page, or you see a billboard in the street that answers your question. The answer can come from different angles, but it starts with treating the answer from the dream with respect. Almost like you visit this wise friend, and you ask him a question, and then you get an answer, and you say, well, but that's not it. No, it is it, and we just need to struggle a little bit with it and puzzle on it a little bit, so we get to understand it.
Well, that would be very similar to what probably felt like disrespect to my spirit guide until I phrased it appropriately about I'm afraid I misunderstood you. Can you please tell me again?
Yeah.
You do need to treat that with respect, because while I'm sure, even though I can't fathom how that would be easy for a guide to communicate, I don't think it always is. Am I wrong? I mean, do they always respond in that manner that you'll be able to recognize?
I think that sometimes no. I think that sometimes we don't recognize it, and but then you can always go the next day and say, "Gosh, dream, thank you so much for answering my question. And to be honest, I didn't get it. It was too complex for me. Please dumb it down a little bit so that I get it." And then just ask it again, especially if it is something that you really would like to know, or that would be really helpful for your life. Your dream will find another way to talk to you. But I think it's so imperative, so important that you treat the answer as a response to your question. Treat the dream that way, because then at least you honored the response, and you honor the relationship, and you show respect for this phenomenon that answers you.
I like that, and I think that's completely true. It's I didn't realize that you had been exploring this for over 25 years. So
yeah,
you have so much background, because I'm going to be honest, you don't look like you would have been doing much of anything for 25 years. But, and that's a compliment. Yeah. But seriously, you've done a lot of work. And I just think that being able to utilize this guidance based on 25 years plus of experience is just a gift that you've given people. I appreciate that. And, I don't know. When I asked if I could book you, I did not anticipate how much I was going to absolutely love your work. I knew it was a deep interest of mine, but you make it so simple. And things that seem like they would be very woo-woo are not. It's just kind of cut and dried. This is what you do. Engage and, just be open. And it doesn't seem like anything should really be that simple that involves such an esoteric topic, and yet it really is. And you provide different ways for people to connect with you. You have classes, you have a personal newsletter, you've got this wonderful book, Dream Guidance, how to ask your dreams for guidance, and it's connecting to the soul through the dream incubation. So you're actually in spiritual soul communication with your guides to get direction in a manner that they know you'll be able to comprehend because they're your guides. That's such a big deal.
Yeah, it is, and it is also so important I think, to make it practical, so that people can do something with it.
And I do need to let people know right quick that you are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is Paranormal Experienced, and I'm Kat Hobson, your host. And I am so fortunate because I have my guest, Machiel Klerk. Excuse me, I got all tongue twisted there. But my throat's holding up great, though, so that's an awesome thing. And we have been discussing so many things, but, you share so much of yourself in sharing this book. And it is available on Amazon and pretty much anywhere books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Booktopia. And I've got to tell people that they need to get this book. If you have any questions that you feel like you need to be able to harness through your dreams, then this is what you need. So what would you suggest to somebody who, like my friend, she's really been developing herself spiritually and putting a lot of effort into it, and I feel like this is just a natural progression with that, to be able to communicate with your spirit guides and with yourself, because our inner being, our inner self is in there rooting for us and trying to steer us and guide us into safe passage, and we don't always hear it, or we don't always pay attention because we're too busy. So this is connecting with ourselves as well as our guides. Did you mean for that to be where you went with this?
For people to connect with their guides?
And with themselves.
Yeah. Well, I've been deeply grateful for the support that I got from the dreams. One, when I was in the pit in my early 20s and hadn't dealt with the heartbreak of losing my dad and all kinds of other things that hadn't worked out well. But I've learned that unresolved heartbreak really can cloud a person's life and make it really dark.
Yes.
And then finding healing through dreams that just changed my life from a dark life into a life of with a lot of color, or at least many colors in it. And I have also had a dream about the Jung Platform. You mentioned that earlier, a company that I started, and that came spontaneously to me in a dream and has been a vocational endeavor that I've been working on for 10 plus years. And so I've been so grateful for the support, and then I wanted to share this gratefulness and this joy of being supported with other people. And so it's partly born out of joy and interest for the topic, excitement to explore it and study it and make create some practical steps, and also just as a thanks to the world of Dream and its inhabitants for its ongoing support. And it was kind of giving it forward. What has been so meaningful in my life, it's just a pleasure to share with other people.
Well, you are a pleasure to share with other people, because I know that I'm going to get a lot of feedback on this show, and I think that's just the best compliment that you could have, because I don't generally have a large chat room, and I don't, I have a large listening audience, but there's so much going on in the world today, and people are back in school and doing all the things, and I don't get many chatters, but I get messaging. And I know I will have several messages about this show by the time we go off the air, because you've taken something that is generally not considered mainstream, clear-cut, methodologies in place to achieve the goal you're trying to reach. And, you've taken all of the woo and all of the, quirkiness, or whatever term people might want to apply, to a true communication, and you've just set down practical means of achieving the goal of the communication.
Yeah, building a relationship with the great compassionate counselor that lives in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of us have some sense that there is something larger in our lives, and many people have built some form of a relationship with this mystery, and by actually really treating it as a relationship with a being that is very wise and intelligent, we make it. It becomes really you start feeling that relationship, and you start experiencing it, and then this most at one hand most out there idea becomes the most practical element of one's life.
Doesn't seem like it should be that easy, does it? And yet it is.
But that is with most things that are simple. They're at the same time very complex. If you bring things down to its simple form, that's a kind of an art. And yeah. But sometimes life is simple.
That is true. No matter how hard we try to make it not be. So,
yeah.
And it really does strike me often that we create this world full of angst and anger and fear and all the things that are the boogeymen, right? That we just set ourselves up in these environments as humans, not personally. And, then something comes along that can create an environment to heal all of that. And people cling to the fear and the anger, and they don't realize how fortunate they are to have an opportunity to stop, to heal, to speak to your own guides, to get the information for you that they're just sitting there waiting to give to you so that you can live your best life and help others in the process, I think.
Yeah, very true. And what is also when people wonder, but why don't they do it then all the time? Why don't they just deliver their insights all the time? Well, at one hand, they do support us. On the other hand, we also have free will.
Yes.
And so we can make decisions. And so they're not all the time bugging us down with what they think or what we should do, but there's radically free will in our life. We can go left, we can go right. And the larger mystery of life seems to be non-judgmental. So we can do any step. But if we ask it for help, it will help. But it's almost like we need to give it an informed consent that we need support with this issue. I'm stuck in this relationship. I want to find a partner. Why am I? What is going on between me and my friend or my mother? And when we ask that and tell the larger mystery, hey, this is where we need some support, it's almost like we give that informed consent by which it can help even, or by which it will help even more, because we ask it. And if we don't, it will do something, but not to the full extent that the wisdom and support is available. And I think that is because of free will, and therefore we need to ask.
Yes. That's a very good explanation. So, thank you for that. Well, do you want to educate us a little bit about your Jung project?
Yeah, so I started the Jung Platform, the JUNG
platform. My
platform.
Apologies. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. And it's based on Carl Jung and similar kind of traditions that take into account another world or an unconscious, whether it's a shamanic tradition or Buddhism or indigenous cultures or Western psychology that takes in some notion that there is an unconscious other world. And I about 10 years plus ago, at night I had a dream in which I am floating above the lake of Zurich. And I see Carl Jung's house, who lives at the lake of Zurich, and he is working on a square concrete platform that he had built on top of next to his yard in the water of the lake. And that was new. And so he's rearranging some beams, and then he sits on a chair. And I watch all this floating some 100 feet above the lake. And then at once, Jung and the platform disappear. And a voice behind me says, now you have to draw it, identical to how it was.
Oh.
And I think, I can't draw, but I have a pencil in my hand and I make a line, and then I wake up. And I took that as a suggestion to build a platform for Jungian psychology, but not something that's rooted in the past. It was building further. So it was building further on what Jung had done. So we would be doing Jungian psychology, but also post-Jungian psychology, and also look at, just like Jung looked at all these other traditions, we're bringing in tarot, retire your family karma, but also classic Jungian concepts as shadow work, synchronicity, archetype, anima, animus, how to deal with addictions. And I've been working on that first with a local nonprofit, which I started in Salt Lake City, where we organized events in person for the general public. And that still exists, and someone else took that over from me. I'm just in the board, giving some help wherever they want to. And then I started the Jung Platform, an online organization where we bring these classes and courses and blogs and summits to the general audience, and again in a way where we create these programs that are accessible for everyone. You don't need to have a lot of pre-knowledge. There's a couple of courses, but then we'll explicitly say this requires some working knowledge of Jungian psychology. Mm-hmm. So that has been a vocational dream that continues to inspire me day in, day out, and driving my life. So in a very literal sense, my dreams have been instructing my day-to-day life.
That's beautiful.
It's very fortunate. It's
I would say so.
of course
Indeed.
sometimes I feel. Yeah, and
do you ever go off the
yet
reservation with that?
Well, I think that everyone has this and has this capacity, and that's also why I wrote a book or make these programs to help people connect with their own deep self, so that they can deliver their contribution to the world, and enjoy the sense of purpose.
I think that the fact that you have found that is such a gift to yourself, and the fact that you're utilizing it in the way that you are is such a gift to everyone else. Because a lot of go ahead.
Yes, indeed. That's a hand-in-hand process. It benefits me. It benefits the world. It benefits the world. It benefits me. And just like we talked about before, if I have the ability to love myself more deeply, that's really beautiful and beneficial for me. And at the same time, it will be good for the people around me, because I will be more loving and caring towards them. And so these things are mutual inclusive. It's good for the individual, and it's good for the people around the individual.
I many moons ago, I had a fantastic Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And and it was a Baptist church in the South, which kind of has different connotations for different people. But he was absolutely brilliant, because people would ask him about, witnessing his faith to people and things of that nature. And I heard someone say, what is the best way to do that? He said, you love them until they ask you why. And that's all you had to say. You bring what matters to you. You bring the love, the peace, the calm, the really enchantment with the world that you gain from experiencing life in the manner that we're discussing throughout this show. And people want that. People want to understand how that's being achieved. And the fact that you can say, this is how this happened. This is what is feeding my peace, my tranquility, my ability to share, love and care. And you can have this too.
Yep.
It's just such a beautiful gift for everyone. It's the people passing in the grocer. The people on the interstate that drive like boneheads, and you just don't get mad because you understand everybody has those moments. It's just, it keeps you centered and at peace, so that people who experience you in that state can recognize it and work towards achieving it too. It's such a great tool for diffusing an already tense situation, as well as for preventing them.
Yeah, and in the same way, we can see it the other way around. People that are angry, they create angry people around them.
Yes.
And people that and maybe become violent, and that breeds violence or polarization. And people who are polarized inside, they will create polarization outside. And yet, the same with people that can be compassionate to themselves, non-judgmental, accept their shortcomings, be able to be vulnerable. To those people, those people are a blessing for us in our lives, because they bring those qualities also to us, and that actually is a little bit like they light a candle The little fire inside of us becomes brighter by being in touch with other people whose light is burning.
Yes. And I just think that's one of the most magnificent things that people can share.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
Even if you don't know why you're drawn to it, you know that you are. And, you know, and you recognize, people recognize and want that peace, that love that they see exuding. It's just wonderful. It really is.
Yeah.
But we are going to have to take another break. It's our last one. So if anyone listening has any questions, get them to me. You can use Facebook Messenger. You can use the chat room. You can just send me a text message. And, because that's my phone number that's on those banners. So feel free to use it. And we're going to go take this last break. And we will be right back. Y'all be sure and come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back for this final segment of Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson, and I am so appreciative of our guest tonight. I'm so glad that y'all were here to be able to enjoy his information. And again, if you missed the beginning of the show, or you just need to go back and take better notes, because I've got some, you can pick us up. We're going to be anywhere that you get your streaming. We're going to be... We're actually on Amazon Music, as well as iHeart, iTunes Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, anywhere. I don't think I'm on Podbean anymore. I think I pulled that one, but we're everywhere else. And just enjoy. And you can reach out and find the book, which is just brilliant. But Machiel is someone who you just are not going to want to miss out on. This book truly is a gift, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I have. But I'm so glad that you have been here, and I have a couple of questions that I would like to clarify myself, if that's okay.
Yes,
you down
please.
with that?
Go ahead. I'm curious what your questions will be.
Probably a little afraid too at this point. But we were talking about opening up to the interpretation. With your dreaming consciousness, being aware of what you're trying to understand, receive, achieve, the whole bit. And, the best part, I think, that I've taken from all of this is that our dreams, the consciousness behind our dreams, which actually is our consciousness blended with the universe and our specific guides and such, this wants to interact with us. This wants to provide answers for us and steer us as we go, right?
That is totally right. It is its nature that it is interested in helping and educating, and especially when we ask it for help. Because of that free will, it can deliver its full intelligence and wisdom when we ask for support. And I think that's where all these traditions come from. Ask and you shall be given. Its essential nature is that it delights in supporting and giving guidance, and when we turn towards it, that is what happens.
Well, I think that my favorite part of what I've learned through this conversation, as well as your book, is that you can actually set yourself up to be able to have the information that you need to get into the dreaming sequence, because everyone dreams. And basically you just utilize these 5 steps that you have, and you ask the right question, you have a specific question, you identify what you need and how you'd like to ask for the help.
Yeah.
And to me, it sounds so simplistic for something that is so important for our growth and development and understanding of self, as and recognizing that we do have things that we need to handle, and we need the guidance.
And they don't teach it at school, where actually this should be part of the curriculum. How do I navigate through life? How do I find my purpose? How do I develop self-love? How do I find a partner that is a good fit? How do I find a job that would be a good fit for me and for my surroundings? And all those things that are so vital to our life, they can be found in our dreams, by turning to the dreams. And how great would it have been? I mean, for myself, to have been able to learn to deal with heartbreak at a young age, and just maybe if I was crushed by heartbreak, ask a question and says, what is one thing I can do to heal my broken heart? And then the dream would show the next step on my journey, and I could do that. And then after I felt that I would have successfully completed that, I could ask again, dream, what do you think that now would be the best next step for me? And then you can follow your inner thread that will guide you through life. And but I'm happy that I have written this book and made a contribution that way. But it would be very nice if a kind of a psychological teachings were more given at school for really helping a person live a meaningful life. Not only know what kind of layers are there in the earth of how was history, but also how do I understand the way I operate, and how do I live most optimal way in accordance with my own nature.
I'm afraid that our society is having a struggle for adults trying to understand the answers to those questions, which makes it difficult to teach the children.
Yeah.
Perhaps they should listen to the children and let them lead.
children are more connected to the world of fantasy, of imagination, and dreams.
Yes. And, I find it interesting because you were so young when you lost your father.
Yeah.
And you did have needs to be able to achieve in order to heal from that. And I'm assuming that this was not something that you had available to you at that time.
No, not at all.
And when you came across this concept, and when you started understanding, the Jungian, I have so much trouble with this word, but the Jungian. Thank you.
Yes.
Method of philosophy and understanding. How old were you when you were exposed to that?
I was 23 when I stumbled upon those works.
That was a lot of time to go without being healed, wasn't it?
That is a long time, and the heart closes if it isn't dealt with properly in heartbreak, and therefore it's and if the heart closes, one loses the ability to experience the different ranges of emotional life, and the imagination or fantasy also becomes dries up. So we need to have an open heart, and an open heart requires a bit of risk and work through the pain that the heart has. And I just didn't know how to work through the pain, so my heart closed up somewhat, and luckily these dreams helped me to open up a bit further, so that I could live life again.
I'm so glad you found it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people in that situation, and I could notice the first inclinations as well, that you will turn towards unhelpful methods, such as drinking too much, or smoking too much weed, or falling in some form of addiction, just to get out of the grayness and the darkness of life. But actually, it only those activities done in unhelpful ways only deepens the pit and makes it more difficult to climb out of it.
That's very true. And sometimes it gets you so far into the pit that you don't realize it, that you're even in it.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to know it's there in order to be able to escape it.
Yeah, and yet when once you have that lifeline, you sense the lifeline. It can turn life around.
Certainly turns yours around.
Luckily, it did. Otherwise, I could easily imagine that I wouldn't be around anymore.
Well, I'm glad that you are. And
Thank you.
I'm glad that this was something that was brought to you, because you had other needs to, other appointments to keep. And this is one of them. This book is one of them. So
yeah.
I'm glad that it was your ladder out, that this study, this philosophy was your ladder out.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Yes.
Good for you. Very good for you.
Well, and very often in our wounds, in our darkness, is where we stumble upon the light. And
absolutely.
The word blessing comes from the French word blessure, which means wound. So wound and blessing are rooted in the same phenomenon, the same ground. And there where we're wounded, that's also usually where we find a gift or a blessing. But it requires a specific way of engaging with it, so that wound can heal and can actually turn into the medicine that we need, and that people around us would benefit from.
Thank you for sharing that. I was unaware of the dual definition. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have had the best time talking with you. Thank you so much for being here. And, you know, I do another show, so perhaps I can talk you into joining me there at a later date. I think that would be an awful lot of fun. It's a different fan base, and, you know, well, the same fan base, but a little other diversities that come in on that. And we'll try to do that because I've just so enjoyed speaking with you and learning from you.
Well,
I
thank you,
appreciate
Kat. Likewise, it's a joy to be with you. I love your inquisitiveness and your interest for the subject matter, and your own dreams that have been so important to you, your connection to the other world. So thanks for having me on your show.
Well, I enjoyed every minute of it. And I do want to let our listeners know that, you know, I have so much to be thankful for. And I'm thankful for every one of y'all. I know that y'all have had to suffer through several reruns and, you know, not a lot of conversation. And I appreciate that you did that. And I appreciate your support. I appreciate your support of the show, the network, all the other shows that we have here. And, you know, Mark is going to be live tomorrow night with Universal Truths. So goodness only knows what he's going to talk about. I'm going to have to go and check that out. But he'll be here for a fantastic show tomorrow night. So thank you all again for being here. Thank you for supporting us. And, you know, y'all are the reason that I do this, because I just think that y'all are wonderful. So that being said, I hope that you have a lovely rest of your week. I hope that you're just blessed beyond belief, because y'all are the whole reason for us being here. So enjoy your evening, and I will see you Sunday night with Fate Mag Radio. See you there. Good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.